Mark Hughes. Welcome to this edition of Disability Viewpoints. Joan Wilshire was supposed to be sitting to the right of me today. She is out ill and will be along on a different date. So I hope I'm good enough because that's all there is me today. With me today is Blair Huneke from the Minnesota State Fair, and she's got a lot of good things to say. Blair, tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the show.
I am a Marketing and Guest Services Supervisor here at the fair, and one of the things that I oversee with my job duties here is accessibility. So I've been at the fair for about 5 years, and this will be my second fair in this role, kind of overseeing a lot of our accessibility programs. So it's been a great journey so far, and the fair is a super fun place to work, so I really enjoy being here and talking about it.
I have one question that I thought of just now. The Minnesota State Council has a lot to do with accessibility issue. Have you conferred with them in planning for the Minnesota State Fair?
Yeah, we work with a lot of different partners, including them, and we get advisement from many different organizations, different partners, different state agencies. We run all of our accessibility programs in-house, and we kind of coordinate everything ourselves. But we definitely work with as many partners as we can to make sure that we're providing the right access and improving where we can every year too.
That's absolutely great, and I know you've done a lot of remodeling and additions and so forth and so on, and it's just a great place and a good time for everybody in the state of Minnesota to come together. What we'll begin then. What services are provided for transportation and parking there at the Minnesota State Fair?
Yeah, you know, we understand that getting to the fair is sometimes difficult, and that's no matter who you are, right? So right off the bat, we want to make sure people who either are traveling to the fair in a wheelchair or have a scooter or have a little bit more of a mobility issue to get here, we make it as easy as we can. And one way that we do that is with our dedicated park and ride that is for people who have accessibility placards on their cars. So you have to have one of those or you know, use a scooter, use a wheelchair, need a mobility aid to use this park and ride. And it's at the Oscar Johnson Arena, which is pretty close here to the fair. But that is a dedicated parking ride for people who need accessible services. And then that also means that every single bus that's going there is an accessible bus and has the space and can handle the capacity of wheelchairs and scooters and all of that sort of stuff. So that's a free service that we provide. And we really encourage people to take that park and ride here. If that's not an option for you, we also have a number of accessible parking spots once you arrive. We have way more than the allocated number. That gets a little hard because a lot of people try to come and park here. So park and ride is probably the best way to get here, but we do have accessible spots on the grounds as well.
Great, and we know there's two Metro Mobility drop-offs, one on Como Avenue and one on Hoyt Avenue.
Yes, Metro Mobility drops off at 2 locations as well, and we have a lot of guests use that. So another great service to get here.
In my tenure at the Minnesota State Council, we worked pretty hard to get that one on Hoyt Avenue, and the State Fair was gracious about it. Metro Mobility, we had to do a little work with them, but we finally got it through. What are the new accessibility services at the Minnesota State Fair this year?
Yeah, we're really excited that this year we've kind of just expanded some of our services. So every year we look at what we're doing and we look at more ways that we can be accessible and accommodate more people. You mentioned at the beginning, but we call ourselves the Great Minnesota Get Together. And unless we're that for everybody, unless we welcome everybody in, we're not doing our job. So every year we try to expand services, bring new things in. So one thing that we've heard with some of our guests this year with our ASL programs is that they wanted more options. They wanted to be able to come and see a free entertainment show interpreted in the evening as well as in the morning. They wanted more variety in their schedule. They wanted just to have the same options as a different fairgoer would have. So I'm really excited that we've expanded our ASL roving program. So we'll have interpreters on site from 9:30 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night now, and our schedule changes daily. So every day you have different options of what programs that you can see. So that's kind of one of the first things. We've also, in the past few years, we've known that blind and low vision services are something that we really need to step up our game with here. So we've started doing some pre-recorded audio descriptions for our guests, and we've expanded that to our fine arts exhibit this year. So guests will be able to go into the fine arts exhibit and scan some QR codes with their phone and listen to some audio descriptions of the artwork that we have in there. Last but, go ahead.
No.
Last but not least, Momentum Refresh is a vehicle that we've had on our grounds for 3 years now, and it's a fully accessible, universally designed changing room that has a hoist and allows people who are in wheelchairs or need that service to use the restroom while we're here. And that space is being expanded this year to incorporate a sensory friendly and a nursing space into it as well. So we're really excited about that. So those are three kind of our big things that we're adding in the accessibility world this year.
Great. And we know that Minnesota State Fair has just been rated recently the #1 state fair in the country.
Yes.
So
yes.
we're pretty excited about that too, and we should be. And do you want to expound on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're maybe biased here too, but we also think we're one of the best fairs in the country, and it's really exciting that, in a fan voted poll that we were named #1, and we're just going to keep doing everything we can to live up to that and keep providing the best experience that we can. So we're really excited as well.
Well, great. What is the IRA app? What is that?
Yeah, IRA is an app that we introduced last year. So we actually first learned about it through Metro Transit and some other guests advocating for it and some other state fairs that use it as well. But IRA is an app that provides what we call visual interpretation. So it helps somebody who is blind or has low vision get where they need to be, read menus, see some different signage. You call into this app and you're connected with a live interpreter who then kind of sets the scene for you. It's all through your phone video camera. So you're showing a video around the grounds or maybe reading a sign. And then there's an interpreter on the other end that helps you read the signs, describe what you're seeing, tell you you need to go to your right to enter the building, or you need to go over here. And that's a free service that the State Fair is covering. So once you're on the grounds, either in our parking lots or through our transit hub where our buses drop off, or those metro mobility drop-offs you stated. Also, once you're in those areas on the grounds, you can use the app for free.
Do you have any special escort service that that the disabled community can call on?
We have started to kind of do that. We don't have quite the largest program that we would like, but we do have some staff members who, if somebody needs a little bit of help getting from point A to point B, we have some staff members here that are full-time, or not full-time, but they're State Fair staff members that can help. So if you are a guest who maybe needs a little bit of guidance here and there, you can call our accessibility hotline and we can see what we can do. Because at the end of the day, we want to be as helpful as possible. So we'll do whatever we can within reason to try to get people around the fairgrounds from point A to point B.
And with you at the head, we know that'll happen, so we're not worried. Do the food vendors have any accessible seating that's special for wheelchairs or disability needs?
Yeah, it's definitely varies by vendor, but one of the exciting things that we have on our accessibility guide is a dining guide is what we call it. So that's actually put together by our friends over at Access Press, and it states different locations where there's maybe wheelchair seating at picnic tables, or they're easier to get to because the vendors are right on curb cuts, or it's flat ground with some cement. So we have that dining guide on our accessibility guide, which is a fun thing to have too.
No, what is the Fraser Sensory Building? Where is it on the campus, fairgrounds?
Yep, Fraser is one of our longstanding partners here at the State Fair. They help people who have sensory sensitivities with a place to just reset and recharge. So their building, which is kind of located on the northeast side of the fairgrounds, right inside of Gate 5 off of Snelling Avenue, they have a front area where you can learn about their services, but then they have a back area in their building that offers, calmer lighting, a little bit more chill vibe than the crazy outside of the State Fair, so to speak. It has sensory friendly and sensory kind of, like I said, just a space to kind of relax and recharge before you go back and head out for the day.
And this is a big question. What accessibility services are available at the grandstand shows? Because everybody is waiting for the grandstand shows. And I know at the last minute you've had some cancel and brought some new ones in that are just as good. So I know everybody's excited about that.
Yeah, with our grandstand shows, we also want to make that a place and an experience that everybody can enjoy, right? Mm-hmm. So we have ASL interpretation offered for all of our grandstand shows. Those are requests that need to be made within 2 weeks of the show. Mm-hmm. So some of those kind of are closed now as we're leading up to it, but always reach out and ask if there's a show that you want to see and want to have some ASL interpretation for. We also provide audio enhancement devices. So at our grandstand guest relations booth, they can hand some of those out to you. They're the things that kind of help pump up the sound a little bit so you can hear it over the crowd and maybe help for people who are a little hard of hearing that way. And then we also have plenty of accessible seating there too. So we have special wheelchairs, scooter seating areas for people to come and enjoy a show.
And you can rent wheelchairs and scooters too, right?
Yes, at all of our entrances to the state fair, we have hometown mobility there that you can rent scooters and wheelchairs for the day to kind of get around this 322 acre grounds because we know it's quite large.
Okay. Say, now it's my turn because we've answered all of the scripted questions and we can edit that out. But there's a reason that you really wanted to work at the state fair. Is it a childhood memory? You must have came out here as a kid. What makes you really want to work at the state fair and have the job that you have? And do you have any memories as a child when you probably came out here with your family in the back of the station wagon? Just spent a day or two?
Yeah, my state fair journey starts way back when I was a kid, just like you were saying. I was actually in 4-H and FFA growing up. So I was a kid that came out here every year since I was in 6th grade to show my cows or my sheep or all of those sorts of things. I grew up on a small farm, and that kind of got me hooked on the state fair. And then once I was in college, I actually interned here as the public relations intern. That was in 2012 for that fair. I went on to have a career in public relations, and then when a job opened up back here, I just knew it was meant to be, and I had to get back to this place because it's really special to be a part of a place that has so many memories and so many people love, and you just know that you're helping create traditions.
Absolutely.
And in the role that I'm doing now, helping make it even more accessible and more open to everybody so they can all experience the fair is really something special.
So did you get involved in agriculture too, or just 4-H? Where were you in farming? Your family's in farming?
Yep, my family's in farming. My dad and my brother still run our farm. They have beef cattle and crops, so that's kind of a long-standing tradition in my family. So grew up on a small farm, and kind of that helped me definitely get to where I am today through my career and just the experiences.
It brought out that work ethic, and I got to take a quick break, and I'll come right back. And that's
Sounds
just
great.
Bianca, so you know you can edit here, and I'm going to come right back. Welcome back. Is there anything that I might have missed? That's the final word segment of the show that you might want to expound on?
I would just like to encourage everybody to check out all of our accessibility services online. If you go to mnstatefair.org and then you click the Visit tab, you'll see our accessibility guide, and that goes into depth on everything that we offer at the fair. It now even includes some videos explaining what's on our accessibility guide in ASL for people who may need that. It explains wheelchair rental, scooters, some of the accessible changing rooms that we offer. Just all of the different services can be found in that accessibility guide. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. We have a great accessibility coordinator who works with me seasonally that is here to answer any questions and make sure that everybody can join us out at the fair and have the best full day experience.
Absolutely. And we know you'll do your best. And thank you for being on our show. And we'll see you at the Great Minnesota Get Together.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, you're welcome. Anytime, you're always invited.
Sounds great.
And we'll be right back with more Disability Viewpoints in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned, please.
Section 504 civil rights legislation is under attack. With me today to talk about this crucial legislation and where we're going to go from here are two individuals that are going to really bring some light to this subject. We've got Steve Schmidt with the Disability Law Center, and we've got David Perry, a father of a person with a disability, but most importantly also is a writer and historian. So welcome both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hard to believe that we're actually talking about the potential issue of the 504 civil rights legislation of being eliminated. You know, the disability community and the disability leaders worked so hard in the early 70s, massive sit-ins, protests, rallies, people crawling up the steps at the Capitol. I mean, we've got all those pictures. And the thought of this legislation just going away is unspeakable. But let's start with the beginning. Like, what is this 504 civil rights legislation, and what does it do?
Sure. So as you say, it's a law that predates the ADA back
Right.
the 70s, and it's a pretty simple law. It basically says that entities that receive federal funding cannot discriminate on the basis of disability. And when you think about that, that's a lot, right? Schools, state governments, and then federal government, federal agencies. And so that is the basis of the law. And it's been in place, as I said, before the ADA, and now works in tandem with the ADA as well as the Minnesota Human Rights Act to prevent disability discrimination.
Right.
Certainly schools would be what most people are familiar with, like
Sure.
Section 504 plans that ensure non-discrimination and access for students. State and local governments, town hall, if you need access to, or programming access through a government program. And then, really any higher education is another example. Any entity that receives federal funding is subject to 504.
Wow. So it really can impact almost anyone with a disability.
Yes, absolutely.
Young or old, and so forth. Now, David, you've been busy writing editorials on a variety of subjects, but you've got a son with a disability. And so what are your thoughts, when you hear 504 is going to go away, how will that impact your family?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are, one of the things about this particular threat is people have been really unaware of it because it was buried in a specific lawsuit kind of in the middle. And the lawsuit was about an issue that's very divisive, which is whether gender dysphoria can be considered a disability and then protected under 504 and other disability rights, civil rights laws. The Biden administration in May, I think, said it could be, not that it must be, but that it could be. Republicans sued, and that's, I think, fairly normal if problematic. But in the middle of that lawsuit, it just sort of said, I mean, literally these words, and Section 504 is unconstitutional, just buried in the middle of the lawsuit.
Just a little sentence.
Yeah, and it's count 3, right? And even people who, I think, even lawyers, I mean, maybe you are in Disability Law Center, you probably knew, but I know lots of people who are sort of in the profession, in the business, and in our communities, who just were unaware of this threat until really, I think, early February, when suddenly the communities nationally began to activate around it.
Right.
So 504 unconstitutional, just it could be gone. I don't want anyone to panic, but it is a sign of the fight that's coming.
Right. The fight that's coming, it's the storm you can see,
Yeah.
and it's not quite here. So, so let's talk further about 504 in terms of if it's not going to be around, what would happen, from the law's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of negative impacts. Obviously, the 504 plans, the protections that it provides in school, if the whole law is declared unconstitutional, those regulations and processes, no one quite knows, would probably go away. ADA Title II, which is what governs state and local governments, that's still with us. So that would still apply, but other protections in 504, other, a federal agency that receives funding, they would no longer have this prohibition against disability discrimination, and therefore, if they discriminated against a person with a disability, there would be no recourse.
Right.
So
it's just
very, very scary. Again, like David said, I don't want people to. This isn't happening immediately. The lawsuit is still in its early stages, and there's things we can do, but it is scary that it's even something that we're talking about today.
right,
So.
right. There's no Minnesota. They're not in under 17.
They're not. It's mostly states with Republican-controlled attorney generals. So Iowa, if you have relatives down there, they are involved. But Minnesota is not part of the states that are suing. So.
So that is huge in itself. Don't you think that there is actual lawsuits moving forward in that respect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something to keep an eye on, and I think one thing that national disability advocates are saying, and if folks have relatives in states like Iowa, to call your attorney general's office and say, hey, what are you doing here? Why are you trying to make this very important law that's been around for decades, almost half a century, unconstitutional? So.
Right. Right. So, and I know, David, in your articles, you've even written some harsh sentences saying, all this stress too can impact individuals' lives just in terms of the stress, and it can shorten somebody's lives
Yeah.
or worsen their condition.
Yeah, I just had a piece about sort of the collapse of the bipartisan consensus around a very minimal floor of disability rights. I don't want to pretend that everything's been great, because it hasn't been. We've had to fight for everything, and the fights continue. But there, once you get a law that's 50 years old, there's kind of a consensus that this is a foundation, and we're arguing about what it means. We're arguing about whether, for example, gender dysphoria should count or not whether it should exist. That is really falling apart, and there's an underlying argument. Donald Trump said after the plane crash, right after he was blaming it on disability hiring, he was saying, these people, they live really short lives, it's really terrible. Well, it's not true. And to the extent that people are living short lives, it's because their supports and services that make lives longer aren't being provided, or are being threatened to be taken away, or being reduced. This stuff really, it can be the difference between whether you have food, whether you have access to health care, whether you have basic educational rights. And I just want to keep saying, we had this incomplete, partial, but real bipartisan consensus, and we've had it for many decades. And whatever you think we've had, all of that is on the table right now, and we're going to have to defend every bit of it.
Wow. That's interesting how you put that we've got to look at all of it.
Yeah.
If we're going to do any saving of any piece
If
of
they
it.
can put 504s unconstitutional in the middle of a lawsuit, and 17, I think, Republican
Right.
attorneys general can sign on to it, then all of the things are on the table.
Right, everything's on the table. That's even scarier.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but real, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. So, as an attorney, Steve, what are your thoughts when things get put in the very blunt category? Everything's on the table. Where do we kind of go?
Yeah, well, I think, as I mentioned, as far as people who are not attorneys, reaching out to the attorney generals in those states, and then reaching out to your elected officials, even local school district superintendents, all the way up to senators, Congress people, and letting them know this is happening. Because I think, as David, it's kind of a little bit under the radar, and I think there's the power in the people, right? I think the
Right.
voices of disability community. We've already seen some pushback in some attorney generals starting to say, well, I didn't mean that, when they're getting a bunch of calls from disability rights advocates. And I think that's a really great sign that, despite how, difficult it is right now, the traditional methods of making your voices heard and speaking up still matter, and they still make a difference. So that would be the main.
Now, I know sometimes there's confusions. You hear parents say, oh, my kid's got a 504, oh, my kid's got an IEP. So there's confusion there. Which one of you want to jump in and tackle that of what's the difference, why one or the other, or does it make a difference?
I'll let you take the legal side. I just want to say I have 2 kids, and one has a 504 and one has an IEP.
Okay.
So this is something that, and they are very different. Then IVPs are often the big modifications, or the big changes, whereas 504s are smaller. But there's over 100,000 Minnesota kids that have a 504 right now, today. 100,000 kids, so that's a lot.
Wow.
And so as far as the different, they come from different laws. So the IEP is a requirement from the IDEA.
And again, the IEP is we're using acronyms.
Acronyms, yes.
For the sake of our viewers, it's-
Individualized education
Right.
program, I believe. And then the IDEA would be the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
I'm glad you had to do that.
There we go.
I believe those are
Hey,
both right.
good
And
job.
so, and that's really focused on education, as the title of the law says, about
Right.
your right to get the education, the free and appropriate education that you're entitled to. Section 504 is more about disability access and is non-discrimination. So they're both important, but different, cover different things for a student with a disability.
Right, okay.
As a parent, the 504 can be a pretty minor set of small things, and there aren't a lot of meetings, there isn't a lot of paperwork. It's mostly just handled over email. And IEP, that restructures the whole educational experience for you, for the child, for the big team of people. It's a much more intensive And one of my kids needed a 504 and one needed an IEP, and I'm glad
Really?
both were there. I'm glad both were there for my family.
Wow.
I'd like them to be there for the next generation of kids too.
Right, right. Well, see, that's just it. If they're not going to be there, what happens to these kids?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they won't get the services they need, right?
Right.
And I think we pass these laws for a reason, to make sure that kids with disabilities get the services they need to be successful, and so that's why they're, so
Right, and that's
important to
just the
maintain.
beginning, so that they can go on to be successful adults.
Yes.
So that's all huge. So as we're winding down here with this conversation, where do we need to go so that all of us can try to stop, prevent, or slow it down in some capacity? Start with you, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I think raising awareness, I mean, this is a federal lawsuit down in Texas, but I think, Disability Advocacy Day at the Capitol is coming up,
Sure.
March 25th. I think, raising that along with a lot of the other issues that people with disabilities in this state are facing is important. And then just, keeping an eye on it and making your voice heard when the time comes. So.
Right, absolutely. Is there any website or a phone number that people anyone to call or to look up if they want more information on this subject?
I can give our mylegalaid.org,
Yep.
our website. We can put up some stuff.
Great.
There's a national organization called DREDIF that has done a lot of good work on explaining this in terms people can understand. So yeah, we can get that information out.
Okay. And final thoughts here as a dad with a kid with a disability?
I want everyone who doesn't think they're part of the disability community to look again, to really think about how these laws and programs impact the lives and the lives of people they love, and then get ready to fight for them.
Fabulous. Both of you, I think this might have helped shed some light on what it is, 504, the civil rights legislation, and hopefully where we're going to be needing to go in the future. So thanks for coming in.
Thanks for
Thank you
having us.
And we're going to be right back after these messages.
That'll do it for us at Disability Viewpoints. I'm Mark Hughes. Goodbye for now, and thanks for watching.